we're super excited to film episode 2 of Connecting Clarkston. And before we get started, before our guests get here, we really wanted to say thank you to the Gateway because they made these amazing mugs for us with our logo. And how amazing is that? Our names are on them. It's the small things, and that really means a lot. And so they've been a great partner for us, and they've been encouraging us and our efforts here at our podcast, so we're just saying thank you.
Yes, so we started doing on our Instagram and Facebook page Clarkston Mugshots feature where we're highlighting different businesses and their website, social media pages with their logoed mugs. And some of the businesses that we've traveled to actually don't have mugs, but a lot have wanted them. So we're really happy to be partnered with the Gateway as a way to get mugs with business logos on them for the businesses that don't have them. And anybody that has a logoed mug out there that wants to join in on our Clarkston Mugshots feature, you can email us at hello@connectingclarkston.com and we'll figure out a way to pick up your mug.
Yes, and Todd is amazing. He works, he does all this creative stuff in the back part of the Gateway. And this isn't the only thing he does. He does amazing work on all sorts of products. So if you're looking for merch, he's your man.
Kind of like a little unknown secret.
It's like a hidden gem.
Yes.
It is really cool.
Yeah, it's so cool back there.
And we also wanted to talk about an upcoming fundraiser.
Yes. So for the Kentucky Derby, we have partnered with Parker's Hilltop Brewery, and we're having a watch party there, which the Derby is on Saturday, May 6th. We are collecting diapers for Lighthouse of Clarkston. And so if you're going to join us, we just ask that you bring a pack of diapers or wipes. You'll be entered to win a prize in our giveaway. And we think it's going to be a lot of fun and hopefully raise a lot of diapers to help Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's amazing.
I stopped in earlier today, which I didn't have a chance to tell you that.
Yeah.
Just to kind of touch base with them and see what they need. And they did say that they are in need of diapers 3 and up, sizes 3 and up. So a little bit of the larger size diapers. So if it's possible to bring the larger size diapers, that would be amazing.
And they can drop them off at Parker's Hilltop on the day of the Derby and join us, or directly at the Lighthouse, correct?
Yep.
Cool.
Perfect.
I love it. Cheers.
Awesome.
Okay, welcome. Episode 2 of Connecting Clarkston. Thank you guys for being here. So we're really lucky that we have 2 members of the community that are very involved in what's going on. We have Greg Need here on the school board and Matt Stoian, the newest trustee at Independence Township. Thank you both so much for being here and coming to chat with us. When we had our first episode, we talked a lot about like the history of Clarkston, and we were all together, all of us were lifelong residents sitting down to chat. And we were kind of talking about how there's something about Clarkston, there's some kind of vibe that it has that is very welcoming, and it's kind of, I wouldn't say Mr. Rogers, but a little bit, a little bit.
Small town.
Small town, yeah. But it definitely has changed and is evolving over the years. But we're trying to understand the balance of how it evolves and how it stays and it remains charming and that kind of thing. So it's really neat that you guys are both here because we talked a lot about development, and I know the planning that you guys do in the Board of Trustees. It has a lot to do with like what happens in the future, and then obviously the schools were a huge topic, and we were talking to Missy Ludd, who was a teacher and is now a real estate agent, and how our schools are such a great draw, and one of the reasons people like to come here, move here, and stay here. So thank you both for being here. I'm just curious too, I know you've lived here for quite a while.
Yep.
How long exactly?
My wife Wendy and I have been here for about 31 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Both our kids graduated. They went through Clarkston schools from pre-K through high school. Samantha in 2017, Miguel in 2021. So we are long time residents.
Yeah, okay. What do you think keeps you guys here?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about small town feel, because Clarkston to me has a small town feel, but it's got all the suburban amenities. You've got I-75 that gives you quick access to shopping. You've got great restaurants here in the community. You have Main Street with the historic buildings, which gives you kind of that small town feel. And there's a lot of community involvement. You kind of see that at the Friday night of the football games. You have tons of people there beyond just parents and players. You have the garden club, you have the Optimists, you have a lot of really active community groups. So to me, it's kind of a blend. You have the best of both worlds. The suburban life, but the small town life as well.
Definitely, I agree. And then Matt, I know you're a new member of the Independence Township Trustee, but are you new to Clarkston as well?
Yeah, my wife and I got married in 2010, and we moved to Independence Township 2011, so 12 years ago.
And what brought you here, and where'd you come from, and how did you end up here?
I personally moved from Troy. My wife is from Lake Orion. One of the reasons that I wanted to come here is the same things that Greg was saying is, ever since I was in wrestling in high school, I always noticed that Clarkston had so much community involvement and support in the sports programs, and now moving here, seeing it's through the high school all the way down through the youth programs, and it's so nice to see. It's so valuable for not just for sports performance, but for the development of long-term, hardworking, confident adults, and it's so nice to see all that support and involvement.
Definitely. Well, and Katie and I have lived here most of our lives, and we raised our kids here too. So I mean, we obviously agree, and this is the whole point of this podcast that we're doing is to highlight our hometown, but it's really neat to hear that people are moving in and why they're moving in, and that's an interesting perspective. So that's awesome.
I guess just as the youngest board member, I'm curious, like how you decided to join the Board of Trustees, like how that's something. It does seem like it takes up a lot of time and a lot of energy. You have young kids, so I guess I'm interested just in how you decided to make that commitment.
So 2 specific things that stick out to me. One of the reasons that I got involved was the development that's going in north of Walden, right by the high school. When I first noticed it, I felt like, man, there's been a lot of development going on lately, and as we all talked about, we love that it's not overly developed, and I wanted to kind of get involved to see, is there something I can do to help preserve what we have here. And the other thing that made me want to get involved is not specific to our township, but just politics in general. You always kind of hear about, lying and scheming and maybe even corruption, and what can we as citizens do besides complain and wait for the next election cycle where we push for a change? Maybe that's enough, but there's maybe something more that we can do. There's a saying that if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And that didn't necessarily apply to me at the time, because going into this, I had no experience at all, so I didn't know even if I could do it, but I knew that if I wanted it done honestly and without self-interest, well, I know I can do that. So I threw my name in the hat, and thank God here I am today.
Awesome.
That's very cool. When were you elected?
My first township board meeting was back in December of last year, so a little under half a year ago.
Okay. And how's it been so far?
It's been interesting.
I feel like that opens up really nicely into questions that we had about the new development.
Yes.
So over the past week, I think I popped into the townhouses and talked to the people at Pulte about kind of how things are going. They let me do a couple of videos inside, just because I do think people are interested in what's happening over there and what things look like. And so I know for the townhomes, they said that there are 132 of those going in over the next 3 years. For the single family homes, I think it was 45 or 48, I think 15 of them have already sold. And they said like it will be a pretty quick progression, within 3 years that should be wrapped up. And I think one of the questions we were wondering is, do we know, like with potentially a lot of school-age children moving into that area, our daughters go to Clarkston Elementary, and I know right now some of the kids in there are going to Clarkston L. I do think there's like a bus stop in there now. But will all of those children go to Clarkston Elementary? Do we have any? And I don't know if either of you would know that, but.
Yeah, so the school locator indicates that they would all go to Clarkston Elementary, and we got information from the school district superintendent during the development stage, and the schools are not at capacity, so they should be able to easily handle the incoming potential of kids in the development. So they would all be going to Clarkston Elementary.
Okay.
Yeah, just following up on that, we've had declining enrollment for Clarkston schools for quite a few years. That's good news and bad news. The bad news is we have declining enrollment. The good news is we do have capacity in our school buildings. So not only Clarkston now, but we have other buildings that, we can absorb more kids coming in, or more kids coming in for whatever reason.
Okay.
How long has it been declining enrollment?
It's been probably the last, I think, 8 years or so, 8 to 10 years. And that's a function of demographic trends. There are just fewer families with school-age children in Clarkston. We are basically capturing about as many kids as we should, but because the birth rates have been going down, the school population has been declining.
Okay.
Plant Moran did a study for us, and they now believe that we're going to level off and then start to see some increases as well. So I think we pretty much hit, hopefully, close to the bottom of our decline.
Well, and I do want to get back to that development, but I do have a quick question. And this is something that came up when I was growing up, when they built the new high school.
Yep.
New, it's not new anymore, but
99, first
Yeah.
graduating class.
oh, you were.
Yep.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, 1 year.
That's really fun. So I remember when they were going to build that, it was the thought at the time, because it was a while ago, was that it wasn't going to be big enough, and there was talk of another high school. I'm just kind of makes me curious when we talk about bringing more families in and more enrollment. Is there any future plans for more buildings? Is there space left that the school owns still in the township?
There is. We have some land at the north part of the township, and I think years and years ago when it was acquired, the thought was there would be another school building, perhaps another secondary building there. But at this point, Clarkston High School, is not at capacity, so I don't envision, based upon, because we know roughly how many kids will be in high school based upon who's in kindergarten,
Sure.
going forward. So I don't see that we would have another high school for many, many years down
Oh,
the
is that
road.
right? Okay. You were here during that time when they were building the newer high school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Do you remember that conversation? I could be making that up.
No,
I don't know.
not at all. Not at all. Well, remember, that was a period of time where there was pretty explosive growth in Independence Township as well. And had it continued on that same track, then the population of the township would be considerably more than we have now, and there'd be more school-age kids. But things leveled off.
Okay, that makes sense. That checks out. I'm good.
Too, with just talking about populations and with you going through Troy schools. So I work in Troy 1 day a week, and I'm a dental hygienist, and so I think just seeing a lot of their community, teachers, students. When I went through Clarkston schools in '99, I felt like Troy and Clarkston were pretty comparable. I do feel like Troy at this point is much more populated, and I don't know if maybe that was just my incorrect perspective at that point. But I do feel like there's been a huge change between what Troy looks like and what Clarkston looks like school-wise. And I mean, I think the fact that you chose to move your family here, probably the small town is a draw for some people, just with Ian kind of digging into how do people choose to come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and Troy has how many high school? I mean, they have.
There's 2 high schools.
Is it 2?
Right.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Right.
Okay. I don't know. I didn't want to skip around, but I am curious. In addition to all these new homes and townhouses, what businesses are we going to see in that complex?
So the area right off of Walden is the first thing that's going to be going in is Walden Village Market. From pictures, it looks like it's going to be more like a Nino Salvaggio of sorts. The rest of it's all approved for retail and restaurant. And what is specifically going in there, nothing's finalized yet. It's still all in the development stage.
Interesting.
But it's approved for retail and restaurants.
Okay.
I know just in kind of talking to some people in that area, when I talked to some people the other day, they were saying right now it is slated for 3 restaurants, whether or not that happens or not. But that's interesting.
And so I had heard it was going to be a Myers. That's not true.
It's under the umbrella of Meyer.
Oh,
but
it
it's
is.
going to
Okay.
be called Wallen Village Market.
Oh,
and it won't
okay.
actually look like a Meyer.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right, interesting. And then another thing that you have brought up, we were talking about this, and this relates to the schools too with this new development. How are the traffic patterns being handled? And with a lot of young drivers coming in and around that area, how is that going to be managed?
Walden Center Drive, that's where Town Hall is. It's going to extend north into the property, and then there's going to be a traffic light installed at that intersection. And then Walden at Sashabaw is 4 lanes wide, and that's just going to extend through to that new intersection, the 4 lanes, so that should hopefully alleviate traffic issues.
Okay, cool. Speaking of buildings and new things going on, I wanted to jump back to the junior high.
Yes.
And what is the timetable for that renovation, and what's happening? And can you update us?
Sure, we're excited about that. First of all, we are really appreciative that the community supported our bond issue. We knew it was a lot of money, but a lot of the needs that it fulfills are really pretty critical, the new junior high being one of them. The old building was 60 years old, and we had our architects and engineers take a look at it, and it's kind of like an old house. At some point you're going to be dumping more money to maintaining it, that it just quicker or a lot cheaper or more efficient to build new, and that's what we're doing. When we went out for the bond issue, the law requires that we get approval from the Treasury Department, so we have to do a lot of pre-planning before we even submit the question to Treasury and way before it goes on the ballot. So we had done a lot of work to try to determine what the cost was going to be and what the best project would be. Since the bond issue passed, our architects and our facilities people have gone to a lot of junior highs in the state just to try to get an idea of best practices. And we are going to go out for bids this year, and then construction will start in 2024. It's going to be about a 4-year project. It's going to take a long time because we're using pretty much the footprint of the current junior high.
How does that work? What? Yeah.
It's
Like my
kind
brain.
of like a huge jigsaw puzzle.
Okay.
And if people really want to get into the details, there was a good presentation at our April 10th board meeting. Wes Goodman, who's our great executive director of facilities and our architect, kind of explained to the board what exactly the plan was going to be with maps and diagrams and Independence Television. It's available for anybody to watch on Independence Television. So if they want the details, April 10th meeting.
Okay.
But basically we are going to preserve the auditorium because that was more recently built, as well as our construction trades building, which is kind of at the north kind of edge of the property. So that will stay. The rest of the building will be demolished. We're going to start by building a new gym kind of in the area between the current auditorium and the old gym. It's basically open area right now. We're
In the
parking.
front of the
In
building?
the front, what's now
Okay.
the front of the building.
Okay.
So the new gym will go there, and then that will allow us to demolish the old gym. Then the classroom buildings are going to go kind of where the old gym is now. It'll be a 2-story building. Once that's done, then obviously we can do all the instruction there, move all the classrooms and the kids there, demolish the rest of it, and then build the offices and the cafeteria and the other parts of the junior high. But again, because we're doing it while school is in session, except for a little while in the summer, it's going to be a multi-year project.
So we attend Kensington Church that meets in the junior high,
Mm-hmm.
and I think 2 Sundays ago, because there's been some concern over where do we go after this, and they had said they had been in contact with the school, and it looked like we were going to be able to stay for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, how is that going to work but that's how the auditorium is staying.
The auditorium is
Okay.
staying. That was a more recent, and the engineers looked at it and they said the building is really fine. There's no
Okay.
real reason to take it down, and you're trying to be prudent with spending taxpayers' money, so we figured fine.
Yeah.
If it's still going to work, then we'll keep that, and we'll keep the parts of the building that are still in good shape.
So it's sort of like when you renovate your house, like you just kind of leave this space closed off and don't go in there, and this is the idea, and then you just kind of
Exactly.
move. That's going to be
It's kind of like
interesting.
renovating your house while you're
that-
still living in it.
While you're still living in it,
So
exactly. Yeah.
It's tough.
And with that, no, I've heard some concern of parents that are worried about their kids being in the building while it's going on and just air quality. And how does that, these are companies that are used to handling that? And,
Absolutely.
Okay.
We've been assured that there will be, there'll be security measures in place to make sure that nobody can, get into the construction area. There will be air filtration systems that will take care of any kind of construction dust that might be generated. It's a very, very real concern, but
Yeah.
we've anticipated that, and I think our architects and our folks have planned for that.
That's an ambitious project.
It's a very ambitious project, but again, it was really needed,
Yeah.
and our community supported that as well.
Yep.
That was the big focal point. Although there's a lot more beyond the new junior high. We're also putting air conditioning in all the buildings.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
That's something that our
All of
community,
them?
yeah,
Oh,
all the
thank you.
elementaries, all of our. That was a major issue of our community. I was.
You guys, I've gone to
pretty
one board
amazed.
meeting, and I was going because it was when we were masked, and my daughter got off the bus, and it looked so terrible. She was so hot, and she went home and she made fans for everybody in her class, paper accordion fans.
Oh, that's nice.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So I had posted something on Facebook, and I had so many teachers message me privately that were like, we are roasting. We can't have fans anymore. And so I was like, all right, maybe I go to the school board meeting and I talk, which is not something I would ever want to do. And I went, and it was a very like charged meeting. And I was like, oh man. And as soon as Dr. Ryan got up, he said, like, we're going back to school, we won't be masking. And it kind of just, I was like, okay, then I'm just not gonna talk today. But that was something I had wanted to ask, and I don't know if it made it into our list of questions. But just with like, I think there was some government money that came into play for air systems and stuff, and I was hoping that at some point air conditioning, and even though it's like not a ton of days a year, but it seems like, oh my gosh, our schools can be so hot. I don't even think my dog could be in, like, like people would be calling the police if I left my dog in a car that hot.
Well, when I
That
went
might be dramatic, and so I don't mean to do
not
that.
At all.
Okay.
Not at all. When I went to elementary school, we started after Labor Day. I mean, I'm old, as you can tell. So this whole idea of starting in the latter part of August is new, and it does get very, very hot there at that point. So.
Yeah. Well,
But-
and like Clarkston Elementary is a very old building, and so I do think that presents a lot of issues and expense in air conditioning it, but I think that that's amazing.
That
so
is amazing.
I'm happy
That's
to
great
hear
news.
that.
So that's, okay, so they're doing air conditioning.
Yep.
What else do we have going on?
A lot of the mechanical systems of our buildings need to be replaced. Again, our newest building is Springfield Plains. That's probably almost 20 years old. Well, yeah, somewhere, it was probably the mid 2000s. So we have a lot of older buildings in the district. So the mechanical components, the plumbing systems, the heating systems, they're all in need of substantial work and renovation. So again, our engineers and our architects have kind of looked at everything, and a lot of the money that's being generated by the bond issue, people will never see it, but it's still critically important. Kind of like the furnace of your house. You don't see it, but my gosh, if it goes out, then you've got issues. Yeah.
Can I make a request for the new junior high? Can we bring back those old buttresses that the old high school had? Can we just put those on, just for nostalgia?
Okay.
He's
Put
like,
in
I'll
your
work on
notes.
that.
We'll get
Just for
that
you.
Well, the entrance to the
People used to
junior
climb
high
up.
has those murals now, and that will certainly,
Yeah.
that was one issue that some community members were really concerned because they thought those would go away, but those will be preserved.
Oh, good.
So it'll kind of maintain a little bit of the history of the junior high,
No,
which was actually
so-
the high school. When I
Right.
came out here, that was actually the high school at
Right,
that time. so-
exactly.
Your whole high school, right?
Yeah, that's I graduated out of that
3
high
years of
school,
mine.
and people would climb up those buttresses. I mean, just just some memories. I see that's a no. That's all right.
Okay. Moving on.
That's a no. But no, that's really good news. I'm really, and I know the teachers are probably ecstatic about.
And if people are interested, at every board meeting from now probably till the end of '24, we will have regular monthly reports from our bond people as to where we are, what projects are upcoming. So if people are interested, they should come to the meeting or watch it on Independence TV, and they can be updated as to what's happening. And Dr. Ryan will post stuff on our website as well.
Right. That's awesome.
Just with you saying too about people being interested in watching the meetings, I think this is another topic that's kind of been something, I feel like it's part of the reason that we're trying to do this podcast and what we're trying to accomplish with our vision here is basically, I think a lot of people are very involved in what happens at both of these meetings, but don't necessarily have the time to watch them. I know I was saying I spent like 5 hours this week watching past meetings, trying to like be on top of what was happening. And I know, I think it was in the last board meeting that some discussion came up about hiring a PR person and trying to be more active on social media and
community
like,
engagement.
yes. And I think too, even when I was watching the school board meeting, I was thinking, gosh, there is a lot of pretty interesting things happening in our community that if you're not somebody that has the time to sit down and watch those meetings, I don't know that you hear a whole lot about it. So I think, for example, it was the school board meeting where, was it the garden club? Harbaugh, I know was her last name, I want to say.
Yep, she was at our last meeting.
Yes,
yeah.
and she got up and she was talking about how like every year they, I think they donate like $18,000 to school-related programs, and how she was saying like, if you guys can help me get the word out to a bigger audience, like that's gonna allow us to help more. There was the one teacher who's the science teacher of the year. I think it was Stunenbaum. I'm
Yep,
probably saying that.
Mr. Sennenbaugh.
Okay. And I'm like, gosh, that's very interesting. I feel like there's always great stuff going on with you guys, just different interesting things where I feel like you were in support of kind of moving further along with some sort of PR.
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
were saying too, right? When you were investigating the township, it was hard to
Yeah.
even find information.
I had no idea what was going on unless I thoroughly looked into it, because I would never just
Right.
stumble on that information.
Yes.
And now, hopefully, this being, blasted out there more, people will just know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think with my 5 hours of watching this week, which I don't anticipate doing that every week, but for you guys, I was like, okay, I feel like I should know. I was like, gosh, there was a lot of good stuff there that I would never have known had I not devoted 5 hours to watching. So,
And that's one of our goals. We'll try really hard to pay attention and, get some of those tidbits out too, because
Yeah.
it's really important. And like you were saying, people are really interested in what's happening, and there are a lot of community members doing great things, and you don't hear about it. And so we're
and
kind
I
of
do
taking
think too, then like you don't know what's going on until all of a sudden there's like some big
something's done. Yeah.
charged, thing, and then everybody jumps in. But I think probably being up to date on things as they're happening makes a lot of sense and would be helpful for the community.
So what are the next things? I know that Walden and Sashabaw complex. What else is coming up with the township that you can talk about? Any other projects?
Specific projects. I know that the Downtown Development Authority, they're looking at the beautification of Dixie Highway and White Lake Road, and that's more or less just making everything in the area look prettier. Street lights, walkways, that kind of thing. Hopefully encouraging the businesses in the area to invest more in their own buildings so that everything just looks nicer in general.
So I remember, I don't know if it was a couple years ago, there was the safety path was a big issue. Is that finished, or is that continuing? Do you know anything about that?
We're always progressing with the safety paths, looking at different options of where to connect and continue.
So it's like continual, like
Yeah.
that will
Yeah,
keep going, yeah.
The day it stops is the day that we run out of interest in our safety path.
Yeah.
So we live right by Clarkston High School, and we're very close to the new development that's going in. And I know as they were planning that, and there was talk of the safety path, I do believe it will run through my backyard. So you'll be able to swing by.
Okay, well,
But I do know, that was definitely part of the discussion there. And when I did stop into Pulte, I had asked them, just because I know when they were getting that development approved, there was a lot of talk about the green space and the park that was going to go in. And I think as I drive by that every day, I'm thinking these houses are very close together. Like, where is that green space going to be? But they had kind of laid out in that development. So I think phase 1 and 2, I'm probably going to get the details of this wrong, but there's a third part of that, I think, that are like ranch style homes that are going to go in.
There's actually 5 phases.
Okay.
The phase 1 and 2 are the condominiums and the single family homes. Phase
Okay.
3 is the market area.
Okay.
Phase 4 is the smaller condominiums. Phase 5 is going to be the northeastern portion of it. That's going to be the open space with walkways.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's phase 5. That's
Yeah.
like the
And
last
that'll
thing
be
to
largely
go in.
completed during phase 4 because it butts up
Okay.
against it.
And
Okay.
what's the time frame for this?
Phases 1 and 2 potentially completed maybe late next year. The whole thing, all 5 phases, maybe 2-3 years.
Okay.
Okay.
Obviously, no one knows the future, but that's
Right,
kind of
right.
the way it's going to play out.
The
good
open
to know.
space, just real quick, is it just is it a park, or what is it?
Just open space,
Just-
open fields with
okay.
trees and walkways. Yeah,
Okay, oh, that's neat.
that's it, unless it changes. That's what it as it stands now.
Subject to change, everything, right?
Well, anything could potentially
Yeah,
change.
for sure, for sure.
So I thinking about all these new developments, and it's really exciting. When my dad was on, we were talking about how a lot of his kids, 5 of his 8 kids, live back in this area, and then a lot of his grandkids are planning to move back. And when you think about your kids, they're off in college. Do you think they'll move back to Clarkston?
That's a good question. I can't really say. My daughter actually was married last year, and she moved back she was in North Carolina with where her now husband was a former Marine. So they're back in the area, and I'm not sure. I hope they do, because I think it's a great community, and I think it has a lot to offer for them starting their families. But time will tell.
Time will tell, yeah. And obviously your family, you have young kids, Katie was saying. Are they in the schools yet?
Yep,
or-
they are. 10-year-old, soon to be 8-year-old, and a 3.5.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And so now that you have these young kids and they're coming through, what are your hopes for what Clarkston looks like in the next 10, 15 years?
What it looks like now. Like I said, I wanted to try to help with preservation of what we have. So
Yeah,
obviously you can't stop growth, but at least be responsible about it.
right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I'm really glad we have someone young on the, as a trustee to kind of continue that push that we've, I think, done a really good job of combining the development, but preserving the charm. So I think that's really great.
We just started a new board, and actually just this past meeting appointed the committee members, the Open Space Advisory Committee. It's all about just preserving open space.
I know
Ann's
someone's-
husband is on that.
My husband is on that,
Yeah.
truth be told.
Great.
Yes, he's very
I approved
interested in
him.
that.
No, he was just,
Awesome.
we had a list of people that we all
Yeah.
just
How
appointed,
many
yeah.
people are on that board?
I don't know.
12, I believe.
Large? Okay.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think one of our future guests, Chelsea O'Brien, is on that also.
I think
Is that
so,
true?
I clearly did not watch the entire meeting because I did not see that part. But
Oh my
I think that
gosh.
was the very last thing.
Oh,
so
okay, yep.
You had to have perseverance.
Right. one more thing of coffee in the mug.
could have made it.
Yeah. Oh, good. So, any other final thoughts about just kind of about our community, and I don't know if not maybe a message, but just thoughts about where we were, where we are, where we're going, just to kind of wrap it all up.
Oh, sure. I mean, as far as the schools go, I'm excited for our future path, not just because of the bond issue, but, we have a lot of initiatives to, help address our kids. We will be honoring a lot of our graduating seniors at our next board meeting, as well as our teachers that will be getting 10 years, so that'll be kind of an exciting time. Graduation at Pine Knob, that's always a great time, probably the high point of my year as a school board member is being at graduation. So, and I think we have a great superintendent, we have a great administrators and teaching staff. I'm really excited for the future of our school district. I think very, very positive. And as you said, a lot of people come to Clarkston because of the schools.
Yes.
And I don't see that changing at all. I think we're going to maintain a lot of high quality, and I'm excited.
Oh, good. Do you think Mr. Call's going to call this his favorite class, perchance?
There's a rumor that he may just do that. And he will have some comments about Lake Orion, too.
I bet he
I'm
will.
sure.
I bet he will. And I imagine before we started chatting, you talked about you're big into wrestling. And do you hope your kids get into the sports programs here?
So I've always been one to really support people being able to physically protect themselves. Most people never even need to do that in their entire lives, but just having the confidence that knowing that you can fall back on that, I find it very valuable. My two daughters both wrestled for a few years, and obviously, as girls age, they want to be more girly, and that's natural. So I wanted them to do it while they were younger, while they're more prone to doing it, and then now they're both done with it. And my 3-year-old son, I've been teaching him little things here and there, so hopefully he gets into it as well.
Okay, we've got some future wolves
Yeah.
coming up. That's awesome. Any final questions for you before we ask about our recommendations?
I don't think so. I'm super happy with how this conversation went. I feel like
know.
there was just a lot of good information.
too.
And I do really appreciate both of you agreeing to meet with us on a
course.
Friday after work.
I know. The mugs do have water in them.
Yes.
To let you
In case
know.
anyone was wondering.
But before we do wrap up, we'd like to ask our guests to think about and recommend someone for a future guest. So I don't know if you had time to think about nominating
I
anybody.
did, but I just heard that you've already got her committed. Chelsea
Chelsea,
O'Brien,
of
I
course,
think, would be
of
an awesome,
Yeah,
because
she's
Clarkston
like a-
Family Farm is another gem of our community as well, and she can talk about that for
Mm-hmm.
years and years and years.
That's 2 nominations, Chelsea.
I know.
She's great. She's also a neighbor of mine, so,
Oh,
and a good
you're
friend.
so lucky.
So
Yes.
yes.
Very lucky of you.
I think that Sam Morocco would probably be an interesting interview. He's also the newest trustee member. He's also on the Open Space Advisory
Yes.
Committee, and he's really, passionate and interested in the township.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big on preservation too,
Yeah.
so that's
Right.
a passion of Sam's. Yeah,
That's right.
That'd be great.
Like the Bailey
The
House.
Bailey House,
and,
an update
Exactly.
on that would be great.
yes,
Yeah.
he's on our list already too. So
Yeah.
you guys both,
Well, nothing new from us then.
Well, thank you so much, you guys. I really
Yeah. No
appreciate you
problem.
stopping by.
This podcast is brought to you by Independence Television, located inside Clarkston High School. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Independence Television, Independence Township, or Clarkston Community Schools.